Hello friends, in this specific video, I will be discussing about all the 2023 express entry draws. So which categories were invited, how many draws happened, what was the lowest score. And based on these insights, we will also talk about what is the way forward for 2024 and what are the trend lines are. So this video could be very interesting for you. Before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Sandhu, and I'm a CICC licensed immigration consultant based out of Ontario, Canada. So without any further ado, let's dive into today's presentation. So before we go into the weeds and understand what kind of draws have happened, first we need to kind of define what kind of draws are there and what does this mean, right? So first kind of express entry draws are the general draws. The general draws means that invitations are sent to the top ranking candidates eligible for one of the three managed programs through express entry, which are Canadian Experience Class, Federal Skilled Worker Program, or Federal Skilled Trades Program. So one of the very important thing in this whole exercise is that it is not any occupation specific, right? So you could be in any occupation as long as you are in tier 0, 1, 2, or 3, right? So that's the main thing. Then there are program specific round of invitations. So this means that it could be, for example, certain programs. So they invite only, let's say, Canadian Experience Class candidates, or they invite only Federal Skilled Worker Program, which has happened in 2023. So we had one draw for Federal Skilled Worker, or it could be provincial nominee program draws, which are through express entry. So this is a case where you get like 600 points because you are nominated by the province, right? So those would be a program specific rounds of invitation. And last but not the least, which has a new development which happened in the middle of 2023 was category-based round of invitations. In this, the minister establishes a category to meet a specific economic goal. So there are 6 categories as of now. So first one is French language proficiency. All you need in this is you need to have a CLB 7 in your language ability. So that's the requirement other than having a valid express entry profile. And then you have other 5 which are in the occupations, which is like healthcare occupations. You have STEM occupations, science, technology, engineering, and maths. You have trade occupations, you have transport occupations, and you have agriculture and agri-food occupations. So next we look at the round of draws and the number of invitations. As we were previously mentioning that the draws could be either no program specified draws, or could be a program specific draws, or could be category based draws, right? So you have category based draws like agriculture and agri-food occupations, French language proficiency, healthcare occupations, STEM occupations, trade occupations, transport occupations, right? And then you have a program specific draw such as federal skilled worker, and then you have a general draw which is called as no program specified draws. As you can see, the maximum invitations went into no program specified draw, which was around 70%. And this is understandable, but something which has changed from the middle of the year is the introduction of the category based draws, right? And my conjecture is that going forward, this would become even more prominent and the no program specific draws would even reduce further, right? And if you see that the draws which has happened the most in category based one were French language proficiency, which were approximately 8% of the draws. And then you had STEM occupations, which are around 6% of the draws. And then you had healthcare draws, which were around 5% of the draws. And then there were others as well, right? And this is the pie chart version of the same tabular data, which we have kind of discussed. It's again clear that STEM occupations and healthcare and French language proficiency are sizable in the 2023, and it's going to increase further, hopefully, in 2024 as well. Now let's look at the different express entry round of draws and what was the lowest cutoff and how many draws have happened for each of them. If you see here, the first one is agriculture and agri-food occupations. The number of invitations last year was 1,000 and the number of draws were 2. And the lowest cutoff for that particular draw were 354, right? Similarly, you can look at the French language proficiency. The number of draws happened is 6, and the lowest cutoff in any Pacific draw was 375. And if you look at the healthcare occupations, 3 draws happened. The lowest draw had a cutoff of 431. Then you have no program specified draws. So there were 19 draws which has happened in 2023, and the lowest any draw had a cutoff was 481, and the highest was 561. if these draws do not happen regularly, it's possible that the scores would remain very, very high, right? Then you have STEM occupations. Two draws happened. The lowest score in any draw was 481. In case of trade occupations, again, two draws happened, and the lowest score was 388 in one of the draws. And the transport occupations, two draws have happened, and the score has been the same, which is 435 in both of those draws. Now, what to focus on if you want a Canadian PR? So anyone who is a professional looking to become a Canadian permanent resident 2024 or beyond, or looking forward to study in Canada, or already on a postgraduate work permit, they need to look at the category-based occupations. The in-demand occupations based on grapevine and even based on historical data, based on what we have analyzed in 2023, and based on the statements and press releases which we are getting, we can see that the health occupations, trade occupations are hugely in demand. Health, because health sector, there's a huge shortage of professionals in health, from nurses to even nurse aides and many occupations there. Then there are trade occupations where the demand is going to even increase further as federal government and the provincial governments and at the municipality, they're trying to focus on building more homes and houses for Canadians, permanent residents, and temporary residents, because we are having a huge shortage, right? So if you look at trade occupations, they fall into kind of two categories. You have the compulsory trades like electricians and, for example, plumbers, which need a license, and then you have a non-licensed, which could be, even at some places, welders do not need a license, or even, for example, commercial or residential installers, those may not need a license, right? Then we have the French language, where there has been a renewed focus from both the federal level and at the provincial level to increase the number of invitations for people who know French, right? So this is something you need to consider. Then you have STEM occupations, which is science, technology, engineering, mathematics. So all the IT and those kind of occupations would fall into this category. And then other chosen category-based occupations like truck drivers and those kind of things. And from the PNP perspective as well, health, skilled trades and construction, even we have new kind of stream launched in Nova Scotia for construction. Even British Columbia has started program for construction workers. So we can see that the provinces are also kind of imitating what federal government is basically focusing on. So health, skilled trades and construction, IT, tech, STEM occupations, these are always in demand. Plus, then there are other in demand and priority occupations specific to the province. For example, if you look at British Columbia, so they might have a priority for ECA or early childhood educators, right? So the scores are pretty low for them in the PNPs. So based on that, so every province has its own kind of priority occupations which are in demand. So which you have to see whether you can fit into those kind of things, right? And then you have the French language, which I was already emphasizing, right? French language does not only make you help you becoming a Canadian permanent resident, because there's so many programs and both provinces and federal level they're focusing on. It will also help you build a great career in Canada, because a lot of the government jobs and even at the even private jobs require people who are bilingual, basically means proficient in both English and French. So that is something you need to look at. One thing I want to mention is, in case of category-based occupations, as long as you have, for example, uh, express entry profile, all you need is a 6 months of experience in the last 6 months of continuous experience in the last 3 years in order to be eligible for the occupation-based categories, right? Based on the grapevine and IRCC press releases, we can see that they are also trying to revamp the postgraduate work permit. It is possible, and I'm just kind of speculating, and this is my conjecture based on what I'm reading and learning and hearing about, is that they might even change the duration of the postgraduate work permit based on the kind of education you have. So it might be a possibility that if you have studied in STEM field, or for example in trades, you might get a longer duration work permit. So my understanding is that Canadian permanent residence is not going to be easy going forward unless you plan strategically. You know what options do you have. You have planned from the day one you get into the kind of program you study or the kind of work experience you get in Canada or outside Canada. unless you know what path you're going to follow, it's going to be a you would be at a tremendous disadvantage as compared to people who are much more kind of enlightened on those aspects, right? So if you need my help, my contact information is 437-848-7200, which is my mobile and WhatsApp. And my website is www.dillimmigration.com, where you can go there and book an appointment if you want a consultation. My YouTube handle is at Sandhu Talks, where I've created many videos. And if you like this video, please do like on the channel and subscribe to the channel, and maybe hit the bell icon so that you're notified every time I create a new video. I've done so many of such videos on PNP pathways. You might want to check them and get more knowledge about the possible options for your Canadian PR. So thank you so much and have a wonderful Canadian journey.